I'm here with Pat Maitland talking about Olive March and her brother Reginald. What can you tell me about Olive?
Well, Olive, of course, was my mother, and in 1914, working at the bakery, and this is a little bit about ladies who went actually in the First World War to work, and the actual driver of the lorry, the van, the bakery van, went off to fight the Kaiser. Not on his own, of course, he took some of his friends with him, and the boss said to my mother, well, tomorrow you drive the van. That's what you call driving tuition. He took her outside and he said, you steer with this round thing, press that one to go, that one to stop, and away you go. And the rest of the First World War, she went delivering bread all around the Norfolk countryside. She was actually the first lady in Stalham to drive. As far as I know, the first lady in Norfolk.
What was Reginald's job at the time?
Well, Reginald, of course, was my mother's brother, and he was working at the bakery and also driving the lorry at the mill. And he went, of course, in the army, and, well, they were all teenagers together, and one of the Bristows married one of the girls, and sadly he was killed during the war, and they sent my uncle off to Egypt because there were some riots in Egypt in the mills, so he didn't come home till later in the war, after the war. And when he came back from the war, he married his friend's widow, and they eventually bought the bakery business. And the rest is history, really, in the family. The bakery was actually opposite, which is now the chemist in Stalham High Street.
There's an apple tree in our garden in Catfield which reminds us of those who served in the Great War. It was planted by a soldier called Charles William Frederick Cook, known as Fred by his family. He was born in Potterham in March 1887 and lived with his aunt and uncle in Catfield as a young man. He married a local girl, Minnie Lavinia Hales, in 1915, and they lived in one of a pair of tied cottages as Fred worked as a farm worker on the How Hill estate. It was this pair of cottages that I bought later in 1971. Fred enlisted in 1916 into the Royal Garrison Artillery, leaving for the front from Catfield Railway Station. Whilst he was away fighting, his wife's younger brother, Percy Hales, came to live with her. Percy remembered sitting with Minnie, his sister, on the front doorstep, listening to the guns during the Battle of the Somme. Now, the battle raged for months, from July to November 1916. By the end, over 1 million soldiers had been killed. Now, when Fred returned from the war, he planted an apple tree sapling in his garden behind the cottage, and the tree is now almost 100 years old, a living memorial to the soldiers who served and died in the trenches.